didn't find the phone where the child kidnapper left the phone. No, they found it on the hands of a phone thief. He was stealing several different phones, and when he saw a little girl leave the phone, he picked it up and took off with it, not realizing he was going to tie himself to a kidnapping case. They look into all the kids who were at the center, and the one kid who didn't actually respond back, but just get a message from the teacher of the center, they decide to look into that little girl, and they go to her home residence. The child kidnapper, she is the lone survivor of the case 20 years prior's daughter. Yes. They go to her place and they start searching her place, and they find a box with the blood of the girl who was kidnapped in a hijacking case. They find a doll whose arm and leg has been detached from it in the box with the blood. So they're horrified, and they find a bunch of floral dresses and a shrine dedicated to the lone survivor. But they do not know where the little girl is. They figured after getting the call from the teacher, she got spooked and ran for it. They also figured that the little girl isn't working with an adult at this specific moment, that she did it on her own. Because why would she need to plant the phone to give her some extra time? Because that's the reason why she planted the phone in the location. She could have just broken down the phone and thrown it away, but instead she put the phone back, turned it on so the tracker would go off, so it would distract them for a period of time. Why would she need to do all of this if she was working with an adult, especially an older man? She must be working on her own. Now, the male lead was the one who figured out the little girl was doing it on her own, and he points out to the crush that the little girl must have taken her to a location close enough to the center, so his little buddy wouldn't be wary or anxious to going too far off from the center. So they find a location that this little girl was being kept at, and they go there. The main character and the female detective were the ones checking out the child kidnapper's place of residence. The little buddy, she is not having a grand time at all. She's being physically, emotionally, and verbally abused by the child kidnapper, who is also trying to call her accomplice, call her cleaner up, while trying to take care of the problem, take care of her kidnapped victim. And that's when the male lead and his men, specifically the male lead and the crush and his men, arrive to stop it. And like the male lead's putting on a whole act that he believes the child kidnapper is just a victim too, that she's been forced and coerced and taught to be like this, and that he's going to get her to safety, and he needs to know who is her leader, who is the one controlling her. And she gives up the name of the dude who was the little buddy who helped the father from the original cases. She gives him up. So they go and arrest him too. They're not getting any information from the child kidnapper, and they're not getting any information from her cleaner. Like, they're basically zipped in shut. They're like a steel wall, and they're full on creepy, because the cleaner, prior to the last time they questioned to him, he was acting like he didn't know anything or remember anything, and now he's acting very serious, very knows things by the book. Like, it is very creepy and startling to read. It's obvious to them, though, his actions the last time they questioned him was because he didn't know what they knew. And he needed to piece things together to figure out what they knew. So the next time they questioned him, he knew how to behave and act. And that's exactly what he's doing now. He finally talks to them when the male lead is sick on her, and he puts on a whole act. He's acting like one of a concerned parent. He's worried for her. He's telling her she's not at fault for things she went through, that she might get a little bit of a slap on the wrist, but the person who is at most fault is the person who made her do these things. But she is at most a victim. And that's when she starts talking. She's giving all the information up because she wants to brag. She is enjoying the pain and suffering she believes she's making the male lead go through, Because again, the male lead is acting like a heartbroken, hurt parent over what she's been through and all the other little girls been through, and she's eating it up. She is enjoying it because she likes to watch the parents of the children suffer, just as those children suffer. She tells the male lead that this is a family business, that her mother was the true, real culprit from the case 20 years prior, that her mom has been doing this for years, and that she is following her mother's footsteps. In the cleaner, he cleans up and fixes their messes. Now, she doesn't give all the details, but she very much informs them that this is a family business. They end up finding more cases. These girls all were wearing floral dresses. It's just they didn't have that signature where the kidnapper called the kidnapped victims' parents and let them hear the screams of the children. It also makes them realize that the screams of the children they were hearing were most likely not the kidnapped victims' screams, but their kidnappers' screams. Because at the time, their kidnapper was a child, so she could pass off her screams as those children's screams. And she did it out of jealousy. Yet she was jealous that these girls that she was kidnapping and luring to her teacher were gaining her teacher's affections and attentions. So she wanted the girls as parents to suffer, and she wanted these little girls to suffer on top too, even though they were already suffering by the hands of her teacher. Realizing this is a family business, they realize that the true culprit, the lone survivor, must have evidence on hand, basically blackmail to keep the buyers in line. And so they go searching for it, and the place they find it is at her grave, that only her partner, the cleaner, could get to, and her daughter. They find the evidence of photos of her with the buyers or the victims with the buyers. They find prints of blood. They also find a diary and notebook that she wrote about her life, and it's just a horrible life. Through the notebook, we find out that the business started because of the grandmother of the child kidnapper, the true culprit's mother. She started off by selling her daughter to older men. But then she realizes her daughter could be used as bait to lure in classmates or lure in other little girls to sell to the buyers. And to keep those little girls quiet, they would get rid of them. And they would be doing this for years. And one of those buyers ends up being the true culprit's teacher. And at first, he was just preying on her, and then turned his eyes onto her other victims. And those victims that he pried his eyes on, she would get rid of and call their parents and make their parents also suffer, because she was jealous that those parents actually cared and loved their child and would never do these things to their child, that she had a parent so horrible that she would do this to her own kid.